Hello, true health seekers, and welcome to another exciting adventure in podcasting. Before I get to today's episode, I wanted to let you know that this is part 2 of my interview with Oleg, who's an expert in the raw extracts of cannabis and their healing properties. Soon after we interviewed him, his website was attacked and was maliciously attacked and was completely erased. He recommended that we send all of our listeners to his Facebook fan page, which is Green Bloom for Humanity. The link to his fan page will be in the show notes. And that right now, as of now, he is working on rebuilding the website to provide this crucial information about the healing properties of cannabis. His whole philosophy is don't get high, get healthy. Because when you consume the raw extracts of cannabis, you don't get high. And the cannabinoids, the CBD, and the THC in its raw form have been known to have healing properties. Oleg has worked with Dr. Alan Frankel, who is the leading expert in using the raw cannabinoids for helping children recover from rare forms of epilepsy, as well as several other conditions. It is amazing the information that's been suppressed. And these heroes in this industry are helping to cease the regulations on it so that this medicine can be available to the masses. So please go follow his fan page and he'll be providing more information in the coming weeks and months. If you have any curiosity around learning more about this, check out the show notes and click on the link to his fan page and check out all the information he'll be providing. Just keep an open mind when you listen to him. And if you've never experienced cannabis or you have a negative idea about it, this isn't the kind of street drug we're talking about. This is the herb, the healing herb, and the extract from the healing herb. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. If you do, please share it with others. This information, it needs to get out to the masses. So any of our episodes, if you find it interesting or helpful, please share it with your loved ones. Let's spread this information.
For the listeners that listen to us online and for any other listeners, we just wanted to do a small disclaimer that we invoke our First Amendment rights of freedom of speech and a press without prejudice granted by Constitution, and all the products that we discuss are not intended to diagnose, cure, prevent, or treat any diseases and not approved by FDA. But they proven useful for the promotion of health and life extension. We also recommend that you consult your licensed health professional for any health issues that you have.
Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 30.
Start educate yourself and your family especially, because it's about time when people get their power back. And the knowledge is power.
Well, I am very excited for this episode. I hope our listeners heard you last time. We are having an encore session with Oleg, who is an expert in the healing properties of cannabis. And he has a website, it's green-bloom.com. I highly recommend checking it out. Just the information there is incredible. There's a lot of controversy around cannabis. People who don't know a lot about it have been taught that it is a drug and that we should, fear it or, keep it illegal. And then for those who have experienced cannabis, most of the people have experienced it as a drug, so as a way to get high, and have never taken it as an herb. What you do is you actually extract the cannabis raw so it does not make people high. So this podcast and the last podcast, we're not talking about getting high. We're not talking about a street drug. We're talking about an herb that is natural, that is grown on our planet, like peppermint or echinacea or, or oranges. I mean, it is all natural, and that there's so much research proving that there are healing properties within cannabis, and that you have a way of extracting cannabis raw so that people don't get high, but they get healthy. And then last time we were talking about your different tinctures how you have a spray, people do it under their tongue, and within minutes they're experiencing less pain.
No pain.
I love that. I can't even get over it. No pain. And again, when the testimonials on your website made me cry, because people who had been suffering from years of pain said within 10-15 minutes their pain was totally gone. And that, I mean, I know people who are on morphine pumps, like literally have had a surgery to put a pump in their body so that they can have morphine pumped into their body because of how much pain they're in. And you're telling me there's something that is 100% natural that can remove pain.
And most fascinating part of that is not that it helps to stop morphine addiction, right? But how fast. For instance, most people that die from cancer, they receive morphine not by shots, but by IV. So
Yes.
it's a mega doses.
Yes.
And my mom, she almost died from cancer. She told me that she was actually addict when she was released from hospital. They gave her big bucks of morphine. There was only way to stop pain. And people who start using CBDa or THCa for their cancer, second or third day, they do not want morphine anymore.
So just to clarify for those who don't know, CBD and THC are the extracts or the chemical components, the chemical constituents within cannabis.
THC, well, when you take plant in its natural raw form, there is no THC. It's only THCa. And A stands for acid. So it's in its acid state, it's raw. It's not altered by heat. Same goes for the other cannabinoid, which is CBDa. But through either sunlight, when the plant stays a long time before it harvested, or through the time, or through the alteration of heat by humans, THCa converts to THC. CBDa converts itself to CBD. And I found on many different studies and personal practice that therapeutically, your success rate much higher. I would say 300% higher. But the biggest difference between THCa and THC is the dose that I can give you. Because usually most people who never experienced cannabis, never smoked it, the maximum they can get is 2 puffs, right? And they will be stoned for like hours. But people who experience with smoking cannabis, they can only smoke like 1 cigarette per. Then you need more because you're very stoned. And if you consume whole cigarette alone, it's only about 10 milligrams of THC. Because the cigarette might contain more, but you burn it all. You burn about 70 to 90% by fire. So you only have residual effect of 10 milligrams and gives you so much impairment. Versus raw THC, which is THCa, I can give you up to 600 milligrams at once, and you will not be impaired.
Because it's raw, because it's not heated.
And the worst case scenario it's just gonna put you to sleep, because what THC does is force your brain to produce so much melatonin that you basically automatically go to deep cycle during any time of day.
That's actually some of the testimonials on your website spoke about how people with sleep problems were so happy that they had natural, healthy sleep. And it's not something that makes you drowsy like a drug where you're waking up groggy. It just helped them have natural sleep, helped them like reset their sleep patterns. So that was really exciting. But let's talk about this. So your mom her body was addicted to morphine, and you said within 3 days of taking raw extracts of cannabinoids, she was able to get over this addiction.
Not my mother. When my mother was dying from cancer, it was 1979.
Okay.
And she was released from hospital to die, actually. So what happened is she had 5 different surgeries. And last surgery, she died. She had clinical death for 15 minutes. She experienced out-of-body experience. She saw herself from above. And all the time she was out of body, she heard this soft voice. You have to come back. You have to come back. And it was her nurse trying to resuscitate her through CPR. So when she came back to the body, they told her, we cannot operate any longer because your body will shut down. But without surgery, you have about 6 months to live. And they just released her. I was only 3 years old back then. So my mother, she started to read and dig how she can detox herself, because the main reason for the cancer is too much toxicity inside of the cell, right? And it's very acidic. I actually tell people that cancer by itself is not sickness. It's a survival mechanism of your cells. So my mother, she found very ancient practice of detoxing yourself from Tibet. And she just started to do it. And within 6 months, she was cancer-free, I believe.
Wow. And she's still here today.
She, not just that, she was about, I would say, 7 years ago, she met her schoolmate. They were on the same table. And he was diagnosed with last stage of kidney cancer. And he was actually released to die too from the oncology center. She just grabbed him and took him to our house. He stayed in our house for 8 months. In 8 months, he went to look for work. And all room that he was laying in the hospital with 5 roommates, all died, all 5 died. He's still alive. So my mother, she helped about 30 people so far with cancer, terminal cancer.
What does she do to help them?
She helped them to reconnect to God, number one, because nobody heal anyone. We just have to be plugged into the source. And she told them about how to cleanse your mind, number one, how to cleanse your body, number two. And sometimes you have to clean your environment. For instance, one patient of her was dying from, I believe, kidney cancer. And she said, you have to sell your house, which was big apartment complex, like loft. It was 5-bedroom apartment. And you have to sell your other house. The reason is her kids was ready for her to go. And they were waiting for the inheritance. And it's very, very natural for kids to prepare mentally that parents already gone and I already can own this place. So this lady listened to my mom. She sold the apartment and she still lives today. It's been, I believe, 22 years ago, yeah.
What else does she do? So,
well,
those and there's a lot of research showing that there's a huge emotional component that is associated with cancer. So, so I what your mom's doing is right on par with what I've heard Dr. Hammer, who's a German research scientist and doctor.
What is his name?
Dr. Hammer.
Okay.
And he created a method called metamedicine where he has basically been able to link emotional traumas with disease. And in a very scientific way, he does brain scans, and he can see where their emotional trauma is linked to the disease. And when the person resolves that issue, so like that woman selling the apartments, resolving the emotional issues, then the body is able to recover. So there's a huge link between emotional health, mental health, and spiritual health, linking to our physical health. And Dr. Molly Niedermeyer, who we've interviewed before, she talks about that the hardest thing to resolve and the thing that has the biggest impact on our health is a spiritual health. And she actually says that the easiest thing to heal is a physical ailment, and the hardest thing to heal is a spiritual ailment. And if you don't have that spiritual component in your life or a feeling of purpose, that everything else, illness arises, basically. And so what your mom does is incredible. What else does she use these cannabinoids?
Now, yes, all the time. And my brother, it's a different story. My brother, he's unfortunately, he was on drugs since 1991, non-stop. The only time he was off drugs when he was in prison, which was 3 times. So it ruined the health of my both parents drastically, because you have no even comprehension. Like, I went to my hometown, right, just 2 years ago, and we went to see my father burial. And half of the cemetery, half, is my schoolmates, like people I grew up with. So almost all my generation wiped out by drugs. So it was a huge problem during the 90s in Russia. Huge. So after he was released from prison and he was unable to buy drugs, he would buy cheap alcohol. So he would be in between too. I put him to rehab centers 9 times. Several times he would just steal something and run away. And on top of all, he had 5 different diseases. He had last stage of pancreatitis. He had last stage of liver cancer. He had last stage of tuberculosis, all in the same time. He is HIV positive, and also his lymph nodes always problems. So 3.5 years ago, he was actually dying. He told me that I was afraid to sleep for 12 months because he said I knew if I close my eyes, I will not wake up. He felt presence of death for 12 months. And I did not know that. We just prayed and prayed and prayed because I just felt very burdened about him. But when I flew 2 years ago, I brought my products with me. And ever since, he is consuming them on a daily basis. So it was first time in 20 years he doesn't drink. He doesn't consume drugs. And out of 5 problems he had, 3 almost gone. His lungs completely clear, although he had last stage of TB. His liver, doctors do not know how it's possible because his tests sometimes show that he is bad, but he functions so good. He gained about 36 pounds. His skin color was grayish green. Now it's normal. And he works. First time in 20 years he works. That's the biggest miracle.
And so, I mean, I can't believe I'm like wrapping my brain around this. This is something that is so powerful, and yet there's such a huge stigma, and that the media and governments continue to suppress this or not allow the positives to be spoken about.
One police officer told this expression. He said, U.S. government behave like schizophrenic toward cannabis. They filed patent for the only neuroprotectant substance on earth, but they put people in prison for the same substance, same day. And it's just ignorance of people that stops them from knowing the truth, because now there is no excuse of not knowing the truth. Because people in India can get education from Stanford using internet. You can learn pretty much anything through internet. So people with open mind, they understand it's just a propaganda, because, you know, the biggest proof cops use for the cannabis as step drug is they say, well, yeah, all the kids that start cannabis, they end up on harsher drugs. But they do not tell you the different reason for that. The reason for that is if kid found with the cannabis in the school today, it's immediately a criminal case, immediately. So the school supervisors must call cops. When the cops come, they give parents 2 options. Either he goes to juvenile prison for 12 months, or he goes to the rehab center. And the rehab center, they put him on actual drugs, antidepressant. So when he finished 6 months of rehab, he's drug addict. And that's why the statistic shows that, yeah, whoever starts smoking end up, but they created the system.
Right. Or if they go to juvie, then they're
even worse.
They learn from other kids
Exactly.
about street drugs.
What cannabis is most effective for is breaking any addiction. And that's why they try to suppress it so many years. Because you can stop taking any stuff, not just, I'm not talking about drugs or alcohol, I'm talking about even coffee. Or for me, for instance, my grandmother was Holocaust survivor. And my mom, she still licks plates, like it's a subconscious problem, okay? We lost about 70 people to hunger during the war, my relatives. So I grew up in very poor family, so I always overate, always. Like we go to restaurant and my kid doesn't finish his plate, I would finish it. If my wife doesn't finish, I would finish, all the time. I tried to lose weight with all methods possible. Okay, I tried everything. And when I started to consuming cannabis, what happened is I usually explain to people it's like a sensor in your brain. Like if you just do one more bite, you're gonna throw up. That's simple. Number 2, I don't eat anymore. I only eat 1 or twice a day. And I feel 3-4 times more energy. My friend who was very skeptical, I gave it to his grandfather, CBDa, and I gave 2 bottles. He took one bottle with himself, and he sprayed one time to his wife and himself. So they both lost 46 pounds total. So he lost 22, she lost 24 in 30 days without changing anything. Because what THC or CBDa does, it modulates your metabolism. So if you need to gain weight, like with the dystrophy or cancer waist syndrome, right? People usually gain weight, like my brother. For people who need to lose weight, because I lost 36 pounds when I started to consume cannabis, 36 pounds. And for right now, food not an issue for me at all. Like I can eat pretty much anything. I don't have like a pickiness about food or taste. So I studied addiction for years. I was trying to help my brother, and I realized addiction is not a chemical problem. Addiction is a memory file inside of your chromosome. And there is only one substance that can remove this file. It's CBDa or THCa. Even THC will do it, but much slower. Because I know many people who started smoke cannabis and they dropped pretty much everything. Alcohol, cigarettes, bed addiction, caffeine.
There's a great testimony on your website where a man said that he was drinking privately. He was hiding his drinking because he had had a trauma in his life that he just didn't want to deal with, and he was trying to self-medicate with alcohol. And after starting to take the raw cannabis, which is it doesn't get you high.
No.
It's just like an herb, like a natural supplement, that he stopped drinking. And that he started to be able to deal with what he was going through. And he said that even the thought of drinking made him sick.
Yes. He actually told me that he got sick several times. Like he would drink one shot of vodka, and whole 24 to 36 hours, he felt like diarrhea symptoms.
Like his body was rejecting it.
Yes. Another example is last summer, there was a lady who brought her mom, very old lady, and she was smoking for 29 years. She got lung cancer.
Smoking cigarettes.
Cigarettes.
So tobacco.
And they was able to get, I believe, 2 bottles of product. And she never ever contacted me again. Mom completely cancer free. Not just that, mom only smokes like 1 cigarette a day now versus 2 packs.
Wow.
You just don't want it anymore. Like you lose this edge. You just don't need it. That's simple.
I mean, that's fascinating. I know there's a lot of research. Well, there isn't enough research, I should say, but there is some research out there where it talks about the different receptors in the brain and how this, how they're just beginning to see how this works. So that is the best that we can do now is look at the results, just like you had talked about this doctor who had patients in California and he was able to, just looking at the metadata of working with all of his patients, was able to start to see trends in how, in the healing properties of cannabis. So there's some information out there. There's clearly not enough.
And I believe that what they call research now about cannabis is not even research, because it's either done in the tube, in the lab tube, or it's done on mice. And then there is not even clinical trials on humans yet, okay? I'm talking about not clinical or pseudo trials, or what they call blind studies. They by itself blind. They do not know what they're looking for. I'm talking about clinical approach when there is a patient with the health provider, right? And health provider can monitor all the cases. And then this is what I call scientific research, when it's practically given to humans and data collected to actually see results. And it happened in California, actually, because California, it was the first state that decriminalized cannabis. It was 1996. And what happened is World Health Organization, they sometimes provide grants to the universities for different purposes, right? But one of the clause of this grant, you have to report what this money did. And California clinicians, they were forced by this law to report all of the improvements of their patients, because patients didn't want to be in this list. And there is a link on our website. It goes directly to this list of these conditions. It's about 1,000 different conditions that was recorded by Californian doctors between 1996 and 2001. Thousands pretty much all sicknesses that you can name of, right? They are on this list.
And these are all patients who were using medicinal cannabis?
And most of them just smoked. They didn't even extract it back then.
Right. Wow.
I also heard of people that started to smoke cannabis, their asthma went away. Which is, if you just try to analyze it like logically, it's impossible.
Right.
Because smoke is byproduct. It's a waste product, right? It's toxic. But cannabis smoke, it's not toxic at all. It actually clears your lungs.
Fascinating. So talking about the legality, you were just mentioning the legality in California and how California is sort of a front runner, a pioneer as far as states go for legalizing or decriminalizing. And now we're in Washington State, which it is, the laws have shifted. How have the laws in Washington State affected your company?
100%. Because now under new legislation, I cannot process or distribute anything without license. And the license roughly starts from $250,000. It takes about a year to get approved. But to sustain the license, you need another $800,000.
So they're really making it difficult for people to make healing tinctures.
Well, I was on the board of Cannabis Action Coalition. It was biggest patient activist group in state of Washington. We had brilliant lawyers. And we went to Olympia 5 sessions. So whole idea was to kill medical side and leave only recreational and monetize on it. Because of this coalition, we stopped it and we forced them to, even what happened this year, it was huge success. They removed, so they clearly put 2 words now. It's stupid by scientific approach, but at least we have this. If you read new bill, it says cannabis and marijuana in 2 different instances. So they classify cannabis as a CBD only flowers without THC. And this is now free to everyone. Like you don't even have to have medical recommendation. But the THC flowers, they still call marijuana in the bill. So yeah, legally we cannot process it here now. So we are acquiring license in Oregon now, and we're gonna have our lab moving there.
Okay, great. Well, it's good to know you're able to still move forward. So the CBD plants, what's the legality around that? Is that just for Washington State, or is CBD legal in other states?
Like I said, CBD that derived from a hemp plant, not cannabis but hemp, is legal in all 50 states now since July of this year. In our state, it's legal for cannabis CBD plants, and I do not like CBD only plants. But the reason is because the industry was illegal for so many years. And nobody knew about the effectiveness of CBD. Nobody knew. All the growers, they only grew to make as much as possible of THC, to make it more expensive. So CBD was almost lost within the last 4 years. But some kids and some form of epilepsy, if you give them THC, it will trigger the seizures even more, right? So doctors scientifically started to breed out THC within the last 10 years to make CBD-only plants. And that's what Dr. Alan Franklin does in LA. He was inventor of highest genetically strain of CBD. It was 32-to-1 ratio. So, but if you go to like nature, like I said, in Africa or even Tajikistan or Afghanistan, plants usually have 50-50 ratio of CBD and THC. And what happens when people smoke this kind of plants is, for instance, CBD1 receptors, they only respond to THC, right? And they only located right here. That's why when you smoke cannabis, you usually feel mental high.
And just, you pointed to the top of your skull, sort of
so it's
around your hairline.
It's upper part of your brain.
Okay.
That's where all these receptors. CB2 receptors, they respond to cannabidiol, which is CBD, right? So CB2 receptors, they located all around your spine, nerve endings, all your organs, heart, kidneys, liver, lungs, and all lymph nodes. So when people smoke CBD mixed with THC, it's less mental high, it's more bodily high. You actually feel something moving in your nervous system. It's very blissful experience, I would say. And even Alan, he told me that when he first time smoked CBD with THC, he almost fell into the trance, what he said. It was much better expression of what we call high, right? But for people who do not want to smoke, again, if you consume them both combined together, CBD with THC, usually effectiveness goes up through the roof.
So for those who are suffering in some way or have a health condition or just want the health benefits of the cannabinoids, what do you suggest they do?
Take it in its raw form, like God intended for us. Because animals, they cannot alter it by heat, right? They can just eat it as it is. And number two, start to educate yourself and your family especially. Because it's about time when people get their power back. And the knowledge is power. Number two, I read a book 10 years ago, what it's called Wellness Revolution. So, demographic in this country changes so fast that 20 years ago, 6 taxpayers were supporting one SSI person. By the 2025, I believe, one taxpayer gonna support 6 retired folks. So if we're not gonna change the health of the nation, it will bankrupt the nation.
Yeah, we're definitely in for a ride in the next 30 years because, our people in their 70s are already suffering. Mm-hmm. And 70 is young.
Yeah.
At age 70, you should be able to go hiking. You should still be physically active. And yet the mentality we're being taught in the mainstream media that, oh, you have aches and pains, that's normal. Mm-hmm. Or you have vision loss, that's normal. It's normal for you to need a walker and to not be able to drive your car anymore. And it's normal because you're old. Mm-hmm. And we just yesterday interviewed a fantastic practitioner. It's a type of physical therapy called Feldenkrais. And she says that when we're getting older, we should be getting better. We should be getting healthier in our older age because we're getting wiser. Mm-hmm. So educating ourselves is exactly one of the first things we should do to empower ourselves. Mm-hmm. And that's our whole mission with Learn True Health, is to be able to bring this information to those who are seeking it. Mm-hmm. But it's scary to think that, in a few years, we're going to have to be taking care of our parents and our grandparents, and so many of them, and our aunts and our uncles, as they're older and that they're suffering from pain and from health issues. We're going to have to be taking care of them and taking care of their medical bills and supporting our families. Mm-hmm. So what can people do if they're in a state that this is legal? What can they do? Can they, at what point can they purchase from you, or is this something that they can't purchase from you at this moment? How does that work?
We legally cannot sell anymore, but we have what is called patient referral network, and we're gonna explain them where they can obtain the product legally. Great,
and so that's something that they can find on your website.
They can call the website, and we have volunteers that answer the phone calls. And they will just explain how to get this product legally and where.
Oh, fantastic. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, Oleg, for being an advocate. We need more people like you out there paving the way and helping bring natural medicine to the masses.
Many people told me the same words, like, thank you. I usually smile because I feel much more reward doing this. Like, first time in my life, I enjoy what I do. Like, I cannot wait. Number two, sometimes people call me and I do free consultations. Okay, I never ever charge penny. I just share my knowledge. First of all, I tell them, I do not teach you anything. All I tell you is what I practiced myself. Okay, because I did like 12 liver cleanses. That I can share with you because I practiced it. I know it works. And number two, when people call me or come to me, they actually give me energy. Like one time I remember it was 10 p.m. I was so tired, I was so stressed, and I was really, really like pissed off at something. Don't remember. And there was a new person that contacted me, and we spent 2 hours. It was midnight. I felt so much energy, like I was about to like go outside and walk. But the mental happiness, how much you get, it supersedes. So it's kind of that. I do not force cause work for me. I work for the cause. Okay, and cause much greater than my own opinion about this. In Jewish tradition, they say if you save one life, you save whole world, right? So if you help educate person how to heal himself, he might affect 1,000 people that you will never touch easily.
So that's the ripple effect.
Ripple effect, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, when we're in service of others, I feel like we are connected to our purpose. We're connected. You know, there's a spiritual presence.
Yeah.
It's like food. It's like soul food when we help people and we're in that selfless service of others. So that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Oleg, and Godspeed.
Thank you so much.
Are you looking to optimize your health? Are you looking to get the best supplements at the lowest price? For high quality supplements and to talk to someone about what supplements are best for you, go to takeyoursupplements.com and one of our fantastic true health coaches will help you pick out the right supplements for you that are the highest quality and the best price. That's takeyoursupplements.com. takeyoursupplements.com. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Be sure to ask about free shipping and our awesome referral program.